A man came into my clinic last week holding his phone up before he even said hello. He showed me a news alert about a lettuce recall, nearly 2,000 people sick across 9 states, and he asked me one question. His golden retriever had snuck several bites of his wife's salad 2 nights earlier, the same kind of shredded lettuce that was now all over the news, and he wanted to know if his dog was about to get seriously ill. I told him the honest answer, which is more complicated than a simple yes or no, and it's the same answer I want to walk you through today, because I guarantee some of you watching have a dog at home who has done exactly the same thing this week without you even noticing. Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Nick Lane, your neighborhood veterinarian, and welcome back to the channel. By now you've probably seen the headlines. There is a parasite called Cyclospora spreading through contaminated iceberg lettuce, traced back to a supplier in Mexico, and it has already sickened nearly 2,000 people and sent almost 100 of them to the hospital. What almost nobody is talking about is what this actually means for the dog sitting under your kitchen table right now, quietly waiting for something to drop. I am going to give you the real answer on whether your dog is at risk, the part of this story that genuinely does affect your household, even if your dog never gets sick, and exactly what to check in your kitchen in the next 10 minutes. Let's clear up the biggest misconception first, because I already know where a lot of you are about to land on this. The instinct is to hear, this parasite only infects humans, and immediately relax completely, assume your dog is in the clear, and stop thinking about it. That instinct is not wrong, but it is incomplete, and the incomplete version of this story is exactly what leads to entire households getting sick together. So let's actually walk through why. Cyclospora is what's called a human-specific parasite, meaning your dog's body cannot develop the actual illness, Cyclosporiasis, the way a person can. Your dog will not get the days of watery diarrhea, the abdominal cramping, or the fatigue that people are describing in this outbreak. On a purely clinical level, if your dog eats contaminated lettuce, they are very unlikely to get sick from the Cyclospora itself. That is genuinely reassuring, and I don't want to take that away from you. But here is what the dogs are totally fine version of this story leaves out. A dog can still swallow the parasite, and it can still pass through their digestive tract and end up in their stool, even though the dog itself never shows a single symptom. Under the right warm, humid conditions, Cyclospora oocysts can become infectious after sitting in the environment for a period of time. That means a dog who ate contaminated lettuce off a counter or out of the trash can without ever getting sick themselves become a quiet link between a contaminated product and your backyard, and eventually, if nobody is cleaning up promptly, back to the humans in the house. Your dog isn't the victim in this scenario. They can be the delivery system. And there is a second risk here that has nothing to do with the parasite at all, and I think it's actually the more immediate danger for most of you. This outbreak has been linked to a major fast food chain, which means a lot of dogs are not just getting into recalled bagged lettuce at home. They're getting into dropped food, drive-through wrappers, and leftover containers that also contain onion, garlic seasoning, and heavily processed ingredients. If you've watched my toxic foods video, you already know exactly why that matters. So while everyone online is asking, can my dog catch this parasite? The question I actually want you asking is, what else was in that food my dog just stole off the floor? Let's break down what's actually happening at the biological level so you understand both risks clearly. Cyclospora spreads through food or water contaminated with human fecal matter, most commonly on leafy greens and fresh produce that get handled at multiple points before they reach your plate. In this specific outbreak, the source has been traced to iceberg lettuce grown and processed overseas, and the frustrating part is that the parasite survives a normal produce wash. Rinsing lettuce under the tap does essentially nothing to remove it once it's on the leaf. In people, symptoms typically start around a week after exposure, sometimes faster, sometimes slower, and include watery diarrhea, fatigue, cramping, nausea, and loss of appetite. The incubation period matters here because it means someone in your house could be exposed today and not connect the dots to a salad they ate a week ago. For your dog, the exposure pathway is almost always the same 3 ways. Countersurfing, where a dog grabs lettuce, salad, or a fast food container left within reach. Trash raiding, where thrown-out lettuce or wrappers get pulled out and eaten. Or table scraps, where a well-meaning family member hands the dog a piece of lettuce or a bite of a wrap without thinking twice. None of these 3 pathways are unusual behavior for a dog. They are completely normal, everyday dog behavior, which is exactly why this is worth 10 minutes of your attention right now instead of being dismissed as a human-only problem. Here is your home check, and I want you doing this today, not sometime this week. First, Go check your refrigerator and pantry for any bagged or bulk iceberg lettuce and cross-reference it against the current FDA recall notice, which lists the specific brand and lot information. If you have any doubt at all about where your lettuce came from, throw it out or return it rather than guessing. Second, look at where your trash can sit in relation to your dog's normal path through the kitchen, and if your dog can nose the lid open or reach in, that's a fix worth making this week regardless of this outbreak, because it solves a dozen other problems too. Third, if anyone in your household has recently eaten from a restaurant tied to this recall, be mindful of leftover containers and wrappers left on counters or low tables where a dog can reach them. If you think your dog has already eaten something from this outbreak, here's exactly what to do. Because your dog is very unlikely to become clinically ill from Cyclospora itself, you do not need to panic or rush to an emergency vet for the parasite specifically. What you should do is clean up after your dog promptly for the next several days, wash your hands thoroughly after handling their waste, and keep young children and anyone with a weakened immune system away from that area of the yard during that window. If your dog does start showing vomiting, diarrhea, or a loss of appetite, that is very likely coming from something else entirely, most often a fast food ingredient like onion or garlic, or simply a greasy meal upsetting their stomach, and that absolutely does warrant a call to your vet. And if any human in your household develops watery diarrhea that doesn't resolve after a few days, mention this outbreak specifically to your doctor, because routine stool testing does not automatically screen for Cyclospora and you may need to request it directly. I want to bring the temperature back down for a moment, because I don't want you walking away from this feeling like your dog is some kind of biohazard. Your dog is not sick, your dog is not going to develop Cyclosporiasis, and in the overwhelming majority of households watching this video, nothing has happened at all. This video exists for the small percentage of you where a dog genuinely did get into something they shouldn't have this week, and for everyone else, it's simply worth the 10 minutes it took to check your fridge and glance at your trash can. Being a careful pet owner isn't about living in fear of every headline. It's about knowing which ones are actually worth 10 minutes of your attention, and this one genuinely is. Let's bring this together. Cyclospora is human-specific, so your dog will not get the illness itself, but they can still carry and shed the parasite in their waste if they eat contaminated lettuce, so clean up after them promptly during this outbreak window. Check your fridge and pantry today against the current recall notice, and don't guess if you're unsure where your lettuce came from. Watch your dog's access to trash and leftover fast food containers, since onion and garlic seasoning in that same food is a far more immediate danger to your dog than the parasite itself. And if any human in your household develops ongoing watery diarrhea, mention this specific outbreak to your doctor, since standard testing can miss it. If this video gave you information you weren't getting anywhere else, hit that like button so it reaches more dog owners who have no idea their dog could be part of this chain. Subscribe so you don't miss how this outbreak develops, or the next health story I break down from the dog owner's side of things. And tell me in the comments, did your dog get into anything from this recall before you saw the news? I read every single comment. Give your dog a scratch behind the ears, check that fridge tonight, and always trust your instincts.